Tonight we kick off the Gospel of Mark. Now Mark was not one of the 12 disciples, so who was he? Well, he was known as John Mark, although the second Gospel has always been labeled Kata Markon, meaning according to Mark. So at one point he was just Mark. But initially John Mark was a believer in the early church mentioned directly only in the book of Acts. John Mark is first mentioned as the son of a woman named Mary, whose house was being used as a place for believers to gather and pray. Later, Mark is mentioned as a companion of Barnabas and Paul during their travels together. John Mark was also Barnabas' cousin. Mark was a helper on Paul and Barnabas' first missionary journey recorded in Acts 13. However, he deserted Paul and Barnabas in a town called Pamphylia. This came right after they had a fruitless visit to Cyprus and where they saw lots of demonic possessions. So it's actually likely that Mark just got discouraged and decided to head home. Eventually, Paul and Barnabas returned from their first missionary journey, and when they talked about a second journey, Barnabas wanted to take Mark with him, but Paul disagreed and did not want to take Mark because it might have been seen as someone who's undependable. So they split and they took two crews. Paul went out and so did Barnabas with Mark. But years later, Mark is with Paul and Paul calls him a fellow worker. So Mark really here must have matured through the years and had become a faithful servant of the Lord. John Mark wrote the gospel between 50 and 60 AD. And as we read through this, you will see that this gospel is a gospel of action. See, Jesus' deeds are emphasized as well as there's an emphasis on discipleship and faith. So there you go. A little bit about Mark, and that's enough today for our historical minute.